So we need to talk about pathways, so endocrine pathways. And I'm going to compare an endocrine pathway with a nervous system pathway so you can understand it a little bit better. So how do these pathways start? How are they initiated? Well, both of these pathways are initiated with some kind of stimulus. Stimulus, right? Okay, so this is where things start. Okay, so in the nervous system, the stimulus generally come from something on the outside. Okay, so comes from the outside. So something you hear, smell, feel, or whatever. So something, depending on what it is, if it's something you see, it's going to be something in your retina, okay? In your ear, it's going to be the cochlea. Your skin, it's going to have the touch, for things that you touch. And there's going to be in those places some kind of receptor. And that would be a sensory receptor. So a sensory receptor that responds to that stimulus, and if the stimulus is strong enough, it will send a message. It will send an action potential to the nervous system, to the central nervous system, through an afferent pathway. So we just kind of went through this. So an afferent pathway. That information will go to an integrator. Where that information will be analyzed. Okay, so the integrator in the nervous system is going to be the central nervous system, so the brain, spinal cord. Okay, so once it figures out what it is, it will provide then a response. Okay, so it will send a response down an efferent pathway. So here's the output, which is a result of the input up here. So now we have our response coming down the efferent pathway, and that goes down or goes to some kind of effector. So muscle, like a skeletal muscle, a gland, whatever it is, okay? And that effector will create then a specific response. Okay, so it starts with the stimulus and ends with the response. Okay, well, the endocrine system works similarly. So in the endocrine system, so here's the endocrine. That stimulus is going to come from within. So comes from the inside. So again, something that has to do, with like a set point, like blood calcium or something like that. Okay, so something inside the body is the stimulus for the endocrine system. So once that stimulus is received, the stimulus is received or initiated or acknowledged, however you want to say, by a sensor. And the sensor is in the gland. So if we're talking about blood glucose, then the sensor is in the pancreas. Okay? So the sensor is in the gland, and the difference here is that not only is the sensor in the gland is also the integrator. So it decides what to do. So with the blood glucose, for example, blood runs through the pancreas. The beta cells of the pancreas respond to the high levels of glucose in that blood, and then it figures out, oh, that's too high, and it releases a hormone. And in this case, it would be insulin. So it would, as the integrator, it figures out what's going on, and then it releases the response. So here's the input and the output. And the output is going to be a hormone. So where does the hormone go? Well, hormone is dumped into the blood. So the hormone is deposited in the blood, and then it goes around the entire body. So its effectors then, it goes to effectors, which are cells that have a receptor for the hormone, so the target organ. Those are the effectors, the target organs. And that provides the response. Okay? So the pathway in the endocrine system is not really directional, where in the nervous system it is. You have a neuron that goes to a gland or a muscle or whatever it is, that's the effector, and the response occurs. In the endocrine system, the hormone goes everywhere. It's in the blood. It's circulating throughout the entire body, the entire blood system or circulatory system. So any cell that it runs into that has a receptor for it will be affected by it. Okay, so that is what an endocrine system pathway looks like. A little bit, it's similar but different than the nervous system pathway. But this is going to be the most important thing, is that the sensor is the gland, and the gland is also the integrator. All right, so the next video, we're going to talk more specifically about hormones.